And we are back to discuss even more Game of Thrones drop plots from Supercut Delight. For those of you who are confused, Supercut made his original drop plot video, and when we discussed it, we split it up into two parts, and now he has made another one, his own part 2, which is this part 3, and maybe 4 if we go on for too long. And as much as you guys love saying you could listen to us for hours, trust me, you don't want that, and even I don't want that. So, yeah. Preston, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I have not watched the video. You've watched the video, so I'm coming in here fresh.
And of course, guys, check out Supercuts' Part 2 video. I'll leave a link in the description below. Show him some love. And also, just a reminder, we do have a separate Game of Thrones podcast channel, which will be uploading clips, full episodes, and, even exclusive videos that haven't been anywhere else. So definitely check that out. Once again, I'll leave a link in the description below. And for those of you who are wondering why I sound a little weird or off, my normal microphone broke, and it's kind of tough getting a new one during COVID, so apologies for that. I'll be getting another one shortly, so bear with me just this one time. But, yeah. So, Preston, let's start now. 43. The Warlocks trying to kill Dany in Season 2, or actually post-Season 2 in Season 3. They only show up once. They kind of send an assassin after her in the first episode of Season 3, and then that never happens ever again.
Yeah. I mean, with the little girl, like, showing her teeth and the ball with the scorpion inside. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's a dropped plot, but once you're kind of gone from Karth, like, I guess there's no more need for them. I mean, so in the book, obviously, the Warlocks come after Dany, and they continue, and then they get taken over by Euron. Captured by Euron.
Most of the characters from the Karth plotline in the books actually go on and serve other purposes. Like Zara on Doxos, doesn't he meet up with Dany and Meereen?
He does, and that's very George R.R. Martin to bring back these characters that you thought were gone. I will say that in the show had merged a bunch of different plots. So in the book, it's not the Warlocks of Karth who do the assassin's hit on Dany. It's the sorrowful men, who are a league of assassins who apologize before they kill somebody. And so you just kind of hear about them, and then this guy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and tries to kill her, and that's it. And it's odd because they go into all of this detail in the book on Karth, about the various leagues and factions and stuff that exist there, and then Dany leaves, so you don't know if these factions are going to continue on or not. But at least the Warlocks come back, and Zaro comes back,
and Quaithe to some extent,
right? So we'll see if others come back. For instance, the Spice Guild is a faction, the Sorrowful Men, things like this, the 13, things like this. So
it does seem more or less like they put a curse on her, like, before they died. It's like a last-ditch effort to have her killed, and I guess the curse was just a one-time thing post-Season 2 with the little girl, so that's mostly what it seemed like to me. So not really dropped, kind of resolved, but eh. Number 44. Sansa being married to Tyrion. They should officially still be married, since they never really went into a divorce proceeding. Tyrion makes a joke about it, and they just kind of laugh it off like it never happened. I wouldn't say this is a drop plot, more as it's explained more so in Season 5, when basically the marriage is kind of null and void because Tyrion never consummated it, and there's a whole scene between Littlefinger and Roose Bolton about it. To my understanding, marriage in Westeros is almost like a contract in the sense. You get married, it's signed, but it's not really stamped with the official seal unless the consummation happens, which never did happen, so null and void.
Yeah. So the show and the book are very different about marriage. So in the book, even a betrothal is considered a pretty strong contract that's a big deal to break. And so they don't even break that. For instance, Joffrey is really reluctant to break his betrothal to Sansa because he made a promise that he was going to marry this person, and it takes the High Septon to go, no, it's fine, and he goes, okay, I guess so. Now the show, it's very different. The show, if you don't have sex, it doesn't matter. The betrothal doesn't matter, and if you don't consummate your marriage, I guess there's, a statute of limitation, or if you get married to somebody else, like it nullifies the original one. Mm-hmm. So, they have the discussion between Bolton and Littlefinger about it, and then there's another discussion between Tyrion and Jon about it, about how it was never consummated, and therefore the wedding went away. So, I think they dealt with it enough. It was just very different from the book plot, because it's a very serious book plot, and they just kind of. But, to be fair, they never established in the show that marriage was that big of a deal like they did in the book. So I'd say it's just I think he thinks it's a dropped plot because of some conflation with the book.
Right, but it's more of a resolved plot that we didn't really need to go beyond, because it was mostly Tywin's whole thing, and that kind of died when he died, and when Tyrion and Sansa both fled King's Landing. It's kind of resolved, in my personal opinion. Not a drop plot. 45. The Faith, Religion, and the Militant are entirely dropped after Cersei destroys the Great Sept in the Season 6 finale. Real quick, we actually discussed this as an entire thing in a separate video that hasn't been released yet, but I'll make sure the clip from that is uploaded on the Game of Thrones podcast channel. So, once again, link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell for that channel, and check it out. 46. The Lord of Light organization supporting Daenerys is never really touched on beyond preaching her name to the people and kind of occasionally, sending certain people like Kinvara or Melisandre to help her, kinda. But mostly all they really do is just say how awesome she is, and that's pretty much it. They're never really touched on beyond that. Just occasionally preaching the goodwills of Daenerys to the people of Essos.
Yeah, this is a completely dropped plot. They did set up quite a big, thing that they were going to, that her support, Dany's support in Essos was going to be a thing. You had the Asian priestess in Volantis, you had Kinvara showing up, you had all these people preaching, and then they just kind of had one little scene saying, "Oh, we've got peace in the city because everybody seems to be converted," and then that peace is destroyed by the wise masters of Astapor and Yunkai, and then I guess Dario just solves everything once he comes into power. But yeah, absolutely. Like, I was fully expecting Melisandre to come with an army.
Not even an army, maybe like a squadron of Lord of Lights. How do you say it? Relor.
Yeah, Relor.
Relor.
There's an apostrophe in there, so I don't really know how. Like, I've never heard anyone try to pronounce the apostrophe. Most people that I talk to just say Relor, but would it be like Relor or something? Because there's like a glottal stop? I don't know.
Well, I expected her to come with maybe a squad of Relor followers or Lord of Light followers with her, guys that can do the fireball trick or whatever, but or maybe warrior priests like Thoros of Myr, but she just I guess they believed, the head of the order believed that all they needed was her. I don't know, this is one of the biggest battles to save the history, the fate of the world, and they just sent Melisandre, and I guess that was enough.
Yeah, nothing really made sense about the whole thing, because again, the reason the Sons of the Harpy in the show, the reason the Sons of the Harpy were causing trouble is because they were funded by people from Astapor and Yunkai. Okay, that was firmly established that the money was coming from the outside. That was the cause of the problem. Tyrion goes and makes a deal with the Lord of Light people, and then he sees peace in the city. But it's completely unrelated. It's like treating a rash with an injection for your kidneys or something. It's like he's treating in a completely different problem, and somehow it's successful. Like he achieves peace in the city by focusing on Relor followers, but the Sons of the Harpy are funded by people from Astapor and Yunkai completely in an unrelated fashion. So it wasn't even. It's like. It was such a miss. It's not just a dropped plot. It is a dropped plot, but it's also just such an odd miss on it's just so convoluted. I can't even speak in that it's just, it makes so little sense.
Still in Essos, 47. The dragons misbehaving and that having no lasting consequence of her imprisoning them. I wouldn't say this is a drop
Yeah.
plot. Her dragons were young, and they were, being adolescent children, and they misbehave, and they had I guess, a rebellious stage where they were trying to, just be dragons.
Yeah.
And them not listening to her, or her seeming like she has no control, is once again them just being, kid dragons who are learning to fly and, roast things alive and hunt and stuff like that. So, as for the lasting consequence of them being imprisoned, I guess I would argue that should have been a thing, but at the same time, you could also argue her bond with them is so strong that maybe they just shrugged it off.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough because in the book, obviously, like having the dragons imprisoned and then having the dragons freed are huge plot points that affect the politics on the ground extremely. While in the show, Danny makes a decision based purely on the fact that a farmer came in with his dead child, and then and the public had no opinion about it. And then when the dragons are released, the public has no opinion about it. And so, like, yeah, the dragons weren't eating, and then it happens again, right? The dragons aren't eating when they make it to the north. Yeah, it's never really explained like why the dragons started acting weird, or why they kind of were fine with Tyrion. So, I mean, yeah, they're imprisoned for no reason, and then they get out by just digging a hole in the wall, and there's no real reason for it. I don't know.
So yeah, the dragons have not been very consistent, but
I would
what are you
say, yeah, I
gonna
would say, I'll admit that's a bit of a dropped plot. Like, there's no reason for it. But yeah. I mean, the showrunners clearly were trying to follow the book a little bit, and then had to resolve everything really quickly. But yeah, oh well. Yeah, that's a bad one.
48. The Faceless Men just disappear from the story after season 6, especially how they allow Arya to kill one of their own agents, steal some of the faces, and just run off. There's no consequences for her actions in this plotline after she kills the Waif. And quite frankly, I'm inclined to agree that the Faceless Men don't really care about her after she just runs off, especially considering they did enact some form of consequence when she killed Meryn Trent, but they just kind of let her go, unless they plan on killing her later after, she's done with the whole season and the series. So
Yeah.
this
Well,
is
I mean,
the Faceless Men being it's kind of they're kind of a drop plot line. And Arya's powers, which we also touched on last time, is also a drop plot as well.
yeah, definitely Arya's powers, considering she only uses them to sneak up on Walder Frey, which isn't that important in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I would say it's more inconsistent. Like, they try to wrap it up with him being like, "You finally become no one." Well, how does that make sense at all? But okay. And then she's like, "I'm going home." All right. Like, I wish I could even make sense of it thematically, but I can't. Because she doesn't really even decide to go home until later, when she's with Hot Pie, and he tells her that Jon is still alive. So it's really like, I'm not going home. I'm leaving to go enact revenge on people.
I also kind of liked your idea for Arya, why she had to like flee Westeros because the Freys wanted vengeance.
Yeah, that would be.
So
Yeah, because there's no way she would have been able to kill every Frey, because especially considering she didn't kill the women or the children. So.
well, she was able to kill the Night King, Preston. So I mean,
Right,
a couple of Freys should be nothing.
Maybe she killed all the women and children off screen. I don't. I guess.
49, and this actually bothered me when we came to season 6 and 7, but I understand why. 49 is Engai being dropped from the Brotherhood Without Banner storyline. Now, I would argue there are two reasons for this. The first being budget. The big 5 or 7 actors and actresses wanted more money in later seasons, since Engai first appears in season 3, and he's not the only character who was dropped for likely budget reasons. We'll get to that later. The second reason being he's just too overpowered with the bow and arrow. In the books, isn't he considered like one of the best archers in Westeros? And didn't he also win the tourney of the hand?
He did. He won the tourney of the hand, and then he spent all of his money on hookers. On sex workers, I'm sorry.
How dare you, Preston? I'm assuming the reason why they also removed him is because he is the best, and had he gone beyond the wall with the Brotherhood without banners, the Fellowship of Winter, he probably would have fucked up the Night King. If you give Anguy some dragonglass tip arrows, he probably could have destroyed everybody.
Of course, they are rather inconsistent about the size of the Brotherhood. You know, like how many people are in the Brotherhood without banners, because at some point it just drops down to Beric and Thoros, and then it's just Beric, and the rest of them are kind of gone, you know.
Didn't most of them die or stay behind in the Riverlands?
It's hard to say. They when they were walking north, it seemed like there was like 9 of them or so, and then only only. Well, I guess some nobodies went north of the wall. We're not sure who these nobodies were. I mean, if they were Night's Watch or if they were wildlings or if they were Brotherhood, we don't know. But a few nobodies went north of the wall. But then, you know, after that, we just have Beric and we just have Beric.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what happened to the Brotherhood without banners. He just kind of disappeared.
Number 50, Salladhor Saan, which, by the way, is a good name for songs. He kind of just disappears after, I believe it's season 5, where Stannis is able to pay him some amount of money, and Stannis gets his ships. He kind of just disappears after that. Would I say this is a drop plot? I don't know if it's a drop plot. I just feel as though the character kind of overstayed his welcome. But if anything, I would admit that I'm kind of annoyed that we didn't get some resolution with him or some final scene where he says, well, Davos, good luck. It's been nice knowing you, and leaves.
They filmed an entire scene where, you know, he's in the bathhouse in Braavos with the sex workers, and then Davos comes in and he's like, we got our money. And Salladhor Saan's like, oh, okay.
Son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah. And then he disappears. So, I don't know. He gets raptured.
If anything, I would have included a scene where after Stannis goes crazy, he leaves, and he goes and tells Davos what happened back at the wall, and tells Davos, you're on your own. I just came to send my regards, and, well, bye. Or maybe he joins Dany's fleet with Davos.
Right. You know, like, you're right that they needed to have just one scene of them at Eastwatch, and him saying, you know, this is where we say goodbye. Like, I'm not in this anymore, you know, like something. And then that would have been fun, you know, but you're right. He just disappeared. I imagine he ferried everybody from Braavos to Eastwatch, and then he disappeared.
And then, wait, didn't Jon use his ships to ferry the wildlings from Hardhome?
No, he somehow walks back with them.
No, he doesn't walk back. He takes the boat. Remember, the Night King is like, "Are you not entertained?" And he's on the boat.
Right, but then he's on land. Like, he does take a boat, but I think it's just the Night's Watch boat. And then he, even though he leaves by boat, for some reason he gets off and gets onto land and decides to like walk up to the gates with the wildlings. Could have gone to Eastwatch and then walked, you know, on the safe side of the wall to Castle Black, but instead he decides to land on
and
the
have that
dangerous
dramatic
side of the
stare
wall.
down with
and have a dramatic stare down
with Thorne, Alistair Thorne.
Yeah, Alistair Thorne. Yeah, that was really stupid.
Once you pointed out, like, fuck, that was
memories. Memories. But yeah, that's just, no, they just had their own boats.
50. So I would say Salladhor Saan, kind of a drop plot. 51, you would agree with. The free folk using wargs is suddenly dropped after Orell's death. Yeah, it kind of is, because they make, in season 4, when we meet the Magnar of Fend, he specifically asks what happened to your warg, which implies that the free folk, especially Mance's army, have wargs in them. And yeah, after that, it doesn't seem like any of the free folk even have any wargs left.
Yeah, I mean, and it's I'm trying to think of like the importance of wargs in and skin changers in the book plot. It's important because Jon is also a skin changer, and so it's like the fact that he feels he's more wildling than Seven Kingdomer. Like that's part of that, the fact that he has this like beast feeling, and he by meeting other skin changers, he's meeting his kindred. And so in the show, they never really explore Jon's ability to skin change, and so he never really feels kin with someone like Orell. There's no point to Orell having the eagle at all. He just does, right?
In the show?
Yeah, in the show.
In the show, he serves more as a scout.
Yeah, and then he's killed.
He's killed, yes, because he doesn't trust Jon. He thinks Jon is a betrayer, which he is.
Right, he is. But there's no plot reason why he like Orell specifically needed to be a skin changer. There's no thematic reason that there needs to be skin changers. It's just Orell was a skin changer, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying in the book, like it's important thematically that skin changers are in the wildlings, and Jon is a skin changer as well. So it's one of the reasons he feels kinship with the wildlings. And I don't know. We'll see if skin changing also plays part in the plot as skin changers are at the wall now. So at Castle Black, but there's no reason to even have skin changers in the northern plot. They could have cut Orell, and everything would have been fine.
Number 52, Daenerys being able to have children. This question is randomly brought up during the pit meeting in the season 7 finale between Jon and Dany, and then kind of dropped. I agree with him on this one, that Dany being able to have kids would have made her death a bit more painful for Jon, especially since it's alluded that they've had sex multiple times. But there was no point in Jon going into detail with Dany as to whether or not she can have children, especially during the whole meeting with the Lannister forces and King's Landing. So they had to have brought it up for a reason.
I agree that this is a dropped plot. I think that what should have been the case is that when they're talking about her legacy, everyone would have said, but wait, she can't have children. There is no legacy. And then it would have been a reason why she shouldn't be the monarch or why Jon shouldn't marry her. I mean, that should have been the thing that, oh, you can have no children. There's no one to continue on your legacy. But instead, yeah, it's not really brought up in that sense. Like, or, it could have been brought up as a good thing. Like, yay, she can't have children. The next ruler will be chosen, but it is dropped. Like, there's no relevance to her having kids other than that. I mean, I guess one could argue that maybe her dragons are her children, and it's important that she can't have children because her dragons are her children. But,
that's a little bit of a stretch.
So, I mean, had they, I don't know, mentioned it a few more times with the death of Viserion, and Rhaegal, maybe it would have been important. But I agree, it's a dropped plot because there's huge political importance to the fact that she can't have kids.
Yeah, of course, especially with the whole thing with her and Jon. Like, I agree with him. It would have made more of a gut punch if we got a hint that she could, since he did kind of bring it up.
Yeah, or it would have been harder. It would have been harder on Jon if she revealed to him that she was pregnant and he had to kill her anyway. That would have been even worse. Like, oh God, like not only are you my love. See, this is the thing, is like they wanted to establish that Jon and Dany were really in love, and it was a really hard move for him to kill Dany. But we didn't really feel that Jon and Dany were in love, or at least if we felt it, we felt that Jon fell out of love. So him stabbing her wasn't as hard as it should have been.
Well, they had that little date where they flew on dragons that one time. I mean,
Yeah. But so, if you want the impact and power of like him killing his true love, it would have been even worse had she been pregnant with his child. Like, had she revealed that to him, like right before getting stabbed, like, oh, this is going to be great, and our child, and he's like, what, you're pregnant? And then he realizes, crap, I've got to kill you and my unborn child. Like, that would be a real sacrifice. That'd be pretty powerful. Jesus. Missed opportunities.
53. The concept of winter is just kind of forgotten about. It takes several years for it to even happen, and it's inconsistent in the show. He goes on to cite that the scene where Jaime is leaving King's Landing in the season 7 finale, it's starting to snow, but then later on in season 8, during the meeting between Dany and Cersei's forces, there's no sign of winter at all. He's 100% correct about this, and it's something
Absolutely.
almost everyone has complained about, especially since, I don't know if you recall, the White Raven arrived from the Citadel early on in season 2. And it took winter a long time to start in the show, especially if we're going by like every season being a year or so.
Yeah.
And he also comments on how whether or not the Night King may be able to control winter or how much winter there is. Like, if there could be any credible argument here, is that maybe the Night King can amplify how strong the winter season can be, but I don't think the Night King can control like the whole weather for most of the planet. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that winter felt like worst and most intense during Stannis's drive south, and then it doesn't really feel particularly bad at any point after that. Like you feel like we hit peak winter at the end of what was that, season 6?
Season 5.
Jesus. So we feel we've hit peak winter in season 5, and then we go season 6, season 7, season 8. Yeah. And
it only gets that intense when the Night King shows up and he summons strong winds to counteract the dragons.
Yeah. And this is rough because it also contrasts the book, where currently in the book, winter is so bad, and it's the first day of winter, and we're like, oh my gosh, things are going to get even worse than this. Like, this is the feeling you get. Like, oh my God, things are really bad already. Like, Stannis walked through, for 2 months in a snowstorm, and you felt that snowstorm because you're with Asha. And then all of a sudden, like, in the show, it just all disappears. You never feel like there's intensity after the Stannis drive. Like, you never feel like it's winter anymore. Yeah. I'd say that horrible.
Well, he had to sacrifice Shireen, and I guess you could argue the Lord of Light was there, but I would agree that 53, the concept of winter is kind of dropped very quickly after
absolutely.
season 5. 54, hinting that Rickon may be a warg and being left out altogether. Yes. We got. I wouldn't say that Rickon did have green dreams in the show.
Yes.
That was hinted very strongly, but the whole character himself was just dropped completely after they leave him and Osha in season 3.
To be fair, in A Game of Thrones, Sansa and Arya also received green dreams, but they never really have those again either. So it's a drop plot in the book too. So Arya starts having wolf dreams, but she never really has green dreams again. While both she and Sansa had like weird green dreams back in A Game of Thrones, but oh well.
Someone mentioned this in your comment section when we were doing Fire and Blood. Someone said how it's weird how none of these characters in Fire and Blood, any of these Targaryens, are having any dragon dreams.
Oh no, you're absolutely right.
But at the same time, if they did, I think they would keep it to themselves, because we're going at the whole Targaryen history from Maester Gildane's perspective, and maybe the Targaryens that did have dragon dreams kept it to themselves and didn't tell Gildane about it.
We start hearing about the dragon dreams around the time of King Aerys I, essentially the events of the Hedge Knight Dunk and Egg stories. That's when the dragon dreams are first heard of. And then, but at the same time, like, that's when Bloodraven is alive. So it may be that just Bloodraven is causing all of this. So he's the cause of all of the dreams. So
It's possible. 55, and this is something you've brought up as well. The Ironborn wanting their own independence.
Yeah.
He mentions that maybe Dave and Dan forgot this ever happened because Yara does bring it up during her meeting with Dany, I believe in season 6, but she never brings it up again in the Great Council meeting in season 8. So
yeah, this is a pretty bad one considering it's the entire Ironborn plot. Like, it is the entire purpose of, like, it's why they did everything they did. It's why Asha's character essentially exists, you know.
and do you think the argument that Yara could have brought up would have maybe helped her? Because she could have asked it as a personal favor to the Iron Islands, since their prince did give up his life to protect the current king, Bran.
That's true. Could have. And, you know, they could have just tacked it on and been like, you know, the Iron Isles are independent as well. Okay. I mean, how does that affect anything? Like, the North is independent and the Iron Isles are independent. Like, that's not effectively different for me than the Iron Isles not being independent at the end of the movie, at the end of the show. Like, they could have just had her have independence, but whatever.
And they could have made her master of ships too, to maybe like give her. I don't think Yara would give a fuck, but still, like, give the Ironborn something to help to, like, make them want to stay in the Seven Kingdoms and not be independent, because their independence could be a problem later on down the line. Yeah, this is a drop plot, of course.
I mean, why did Yara sail to Slaver's Bay? Like, why did she join Dany's alliance? Like, that was, wow. She was like, what did I do with my life? Oh, man.
Well, I'm assuming because you can't have Yara and Euron in the same place. Not to mention, in the books, doesn't Yara run away to the north to get away from Euron because he wants to marry her off to one of his own guys?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that structurally they're like, well, we had Victarion went to Slaver's Bay. We're gonna have Yara and Theon go to Slaver's Bay, and that'll be good enough, you know. But it's just that it's the whole thing. Like, season 2 on, like, you know, Theon goes home. His dad wants independence and to conquer the North. You know, they conquer the North, and then that leads to Theon's whole slew of trouble. And then, you know, Yara's got to try to rescue him, and then Yara has to go to, you know, once to become, you know, queen in order to have their independence, and then it's stolen from her from Euron, so she goes and joins Dany. But it's very clear that she still wants independence, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the entire plot of the Ironborn, and it was dropped.
56. Jaime's character arc. Him not giving a damn about the innocents, despite the fact that he sacrifices his honor to save King's Landing from the Mad King. But this one scene in season 8 ruins it, when he tells Tyrion that he never really cared about the innocents. I would argue that he was just saying that. He was lying. He was just saying that just to get Tyrion off his back.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the argument. I think one of the missed opportunities is that, and perhaps there's a cut scene or something, because I was very confused, is when Jaime goes in the city, they keep showing him marching towards a bell tower, you know, and then.
Oh yeah, you mentioned this last time, that you thought he was supposed to ring the bell?
Yeah, and then it would make sense, like, that he's the one trying to save everybody, you know, by making it to the bell tower to ring the bells. I almost feel like they had these scenes filmed and then somehow in editing they switched things around. But then it would have fixed everything. That no, he did want to save the city. He's going to save the city again by ringing the bells. But no, yeah, it's just kind of dropped. Yeah, I think that's completely. I think it's not great. Like, it does seem insincere when he says it. Like, oh, I don't care about people. He does say it, you know, in a very flippant manner, that makes you think he's insincere. But you want some sort of follow-up that shows that, he really does care about the people.
And ringing the bells would have shown that.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're trying to literally fuck up their own stories that they've built up the entire time. Like, it just really makes you... See, because I defended Jaime's decision to go back to Cersei because he's not the hero everybody thinks he is. He's a flawed human being, and he's in love. And we do stupid things when we're in love. You've done it. I've done it recently. Like, we all do dumbass things when we're in love. And even if we're in love with the wrong person.
The things we do for love.
Exactly.
And I would argue, and I wish they would have had this, I would have argued that, him keeping his oath to Cersei, their love, is keeping an oath. Like, I wish they would have, stressed that more, but I think that's what, if they're stealing George R.R. Martin's plot, I think that's what they're stealing from. I think that's George R.R. Martin's idea, that that he has an oath to Cersei, their love. Just because there's previous George R.R. Martin stories that are very focused on this, like Dying of the Light. And so, they could have done that. They could have mentioned that, but still, I'm fine with it even being unsaid, that the things we do for love, Jaime's in love with Cersei, he has to go back, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But him not caring about people, I mean, come on.
I don't buy that. Yeah, I don't buy that. And maybe that was the intent. So, is this a dropped plot? Jaime's character arc? I don't know about that. I think Jaime was very consistent throughout the entire show. Most of the beyond character development. That aside, I think he was mostly consistent.
That's the thing, right? Is he's almost consistent in his inconsistency. Because I remember back in season 3 and 4 when he didn't immediately break up with Cersei like he does in the book, and he sticks around, and everyone is just so confused, and they're like, wait, but Jaime's supposed to have this character arc, and he's not having the character arc. Yeah, Jaime never had the character arc in the show. That's fine.
That's fine.
He was always an inconsistent. He was always on Cersei's side. He never really broke up with her. He broke up with her for a second in the show, But that's fine. He didn't have the character arc. But I guess they never. If they never established the plot in the first place, you can't drop it, I guess.
But also at the same time, people always cite, his journey in season 3 with Brienne. This is kind of reminds me of what happens with Jaime in the third book. We kind of get to see a more deeper side of him. In the first and second seasons, he's a jerk through and through. But in season 3 is when we really get to see who he is, just like in the third book. And just because we get to see his side of the situation, what happened during the Mad King's final days, doesn't change the fact that he's still a flawed human being who's deeply in love with a horrible person, and he's going to make horrible decisions to be with that person.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is Jaime killing the Mad King in order to stop the death of 1 million people. Almost anyone would have done that. You're talking about 1 million people. That makes it. Had he let the 1 million people burn, he would have been a really horrible person.
And wouldn't he have burned himself?
That's true. Yes.
He would have let Tywin die, because I believe Tywin was either in the city or close enough to the city to maybe have been caught in the blast or the inferno, and he would have died himself, because the Mad King firmly believed that he would have been a dragon born anew through the flames.
So making Jaime into this hero, no, yeah, he's a hero in the sense that he saved everybody, but yeah, everybody would have saved, everybody would have done the same thing. So, he can still be a horrible person and not want to kill 1 million people and himself and his family, So, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't, I agree that it doesn't seem right that he would say, I don't really care about those people. But at the same time, Jaime's kind of inconsistent and he makes jokes like that. And he was kind of in love with Cersei the whole time, and he was pretty consistent in that respect. He really pushed forward this idea that he was in love with her all seasons. So he
did try to move away from her. He did. with Brienne and moving away from Cersei during the whole White Walker crisis when he leaves at the end of season 7. He does try to leave Cersei, and at the end of the day, he can't. And that's something a lot of people can really relate to. Trying to leave that girl you fell for super hard, but at the end of the day, you're just too weak to do so. And it's fine. We get it.
Yeah. It's not, it's not that there's a lot of complaints I have about season 8. Like, people's complaints about Jaime are, they're on the bottom of a long list. Like,
out of all your complaints about season 8 Jaime, I think the most that stands out is the fact that Dany didn't call him out even more so for all the things he's done.
Right, or the fact that he has to kill Euron and have a boss battle with Euron.
Boss battle.
Yeah.
That is fucking ridiculous. I get to be the man who kills Jaime. What? When was that your goal? When was that a thing you wanted?
Oh man!
Like the most random rivalry ever. Like, what was the other rivalry that was random that you said? It was
I think Theon versus random Ironborn guy.
No. It was Grey Worm versus Strickland.
Grey Worm versus Harry Strickland. All right. Like, why are they fighting? Okay.